At 6:17 on a snowy Friday evening, the loudspeaker inside Bellwether Market announced that the store would close forever in less than 2 hours. Maria Alvarez stood behind Register 6, scanning the final groceries of a job she had held for 27 years, when a black SUV stopped outside and a stranger walked directly toward her. The man wore an expensive winter coat, but he carried an old paper receipt inside a plastic sleeve. He waited while Maria helped an elderly customer count coupons, then placed the faded receipt on the counter. Maria stared at the handwriting across the bottom. Before she could speak, he asked whether she remembered a boy who could not afford a birthday cake. 20 years earlier, Bellwether Market had been the busiest place in the small Pennsylvania town of Maple Glen. 9-year-old Liam Walker entered through its automatic doors on a humid August afternoon. He carried $12 in crumpled bills, a handful of coins, and one promise. His little sister Emma would have a real birthday, even if their mother could not afford one. Liam's father had died 18 months earlier after a highway accident. His mother, Claire, worked mornings at a laundromat and evenings cleaning offices. That week, a broken transmission had swallowed the family's rent money. Claire had apologized to Emma for postponing her birthday, but Liam heard his sister whisper that she understood, then cry quietly beneath her blanket. Liam had saved every dollar he earned returning bottles, walking a neighbor's beagle, and sweeping Mr. Hamley's hardware store. He counted the money 4 times before leaving home. $12.83 seemed enormous in his bedroom. Under the bright supermarket lights, surrounded by price labels and choices, it suddenly seemed very small. He found the bakery case and studied every cake as though taking an exam. Emma loved strawberries and anything with pink frosting. The smallest strawberry cake cost $18.42 after tax. Liam looked at the plain cupcakes, then at the cake again. The bakery worker noticed his hesitation but was called away before she could help. Liam chose the cake anyway. He added 1 candle shaped like the number 6 and a packet of paper plates. Then he removed the plates. At the register, the customer behind him sighed as Liam arranged his bills and coins. Maria, working her second month at Bellwether, saw his hands trembling before she saw the total. The register displayed $20.07. Liam counted $12.83 onto the counter. He asked Maria to remove the candle. Then he asked her to remove the cake and ring up only the candle. His voice remained polite, but his face had the careful stillness of a child trying not to cry in public. Maria asked who the cake was for. Liam explained that Emma was turning 6 and had pretended she did not need a birthday. He said their mother was working and that he wanted one thing in the apartment to look normal. The impatient customer behind him stopped sighing. For a moment, the whole checkout lane became quiet. Maria reached into her apron and removed a $20 bill meant for groceries after her shift. She paid the difference, returned Liam's savings, and placed the candle beside the cake. Liam immediately refused. His mother had taught him never to take what he had not earned. Maria told him kindness was not something a person had earned. Liam still hesitated, so Maria made him a bargain. One day, when he was able, he must help somebody else without asking whether they deserved it. On the receipt, she wrote, "Never be ashamed to love someone. Pass it on when you can." Liam folded the paper carefully and promised he would. Maria found a roll of pink ribbon beneath the counter and tied it around the cake box. The customer behind Liam bought the paper plates. The bakery worker returned with 6 candles and refused payment. What had begun as one cashier's quiet decision moved through the checkout lane until strangers were helping a family they would never meet. Liam carried the box 2 miles home because he would not risk crushing it on his bicycle. By the time he reached their apartment, the frosting had shifted slightly, but Emma screamed with delight. Claire covered her mouth when she saw the cake and asked where it came from. Liam showed her Maria's receipt and repeated the bargain. They celebrated at a folding table with mismatched plates. Emma made a wish she refused to reveal. Claire saved one thin slice for herself and made the others larger. Liam watched his mother smile for the first time in weeks. Years later, he would forget many expensive meals, but he never forgot the taste of that strawberry cake. The next morning, Claire took Liam back to Bellwether. She tried to repay Maria with the last cash in her purse. Maria refused and asked only that the children remember the promise. Claire hugged her across Register 6. Store manager Frank Dalton watched from the service desk, then quietly told Maria her register had been $7 short. Maria prepared to lose her job. Instead, Frank placed $7 in the drawer and said the store could survive one act of mercy. He warned her not to make a habit of breaking policy. Maria smiled and answered that she would make a habit of noticing people. Frank pretended not to hear, but he smiled as he walked away. Life did not become easy for the Walkers after that birthday. Claire's car failed again. The landlord raised the rent, and Liam sometimes ate less so Emma could have more. Yet the receipt remained inside a kitchen drawer. Whenever Liam felt powerless, he read Maria's sentence and remembered that dignity could be restored in less than a minute. At 13, Liam began stocking shelves at Mr. Hanley's hardware store. When a homeless veteran came in during winter, Liam used his lunch money to buy him gloves. At 16, he repaired bicycles for neighborhood children at no charge. He never announced these choices. Each time, he imagined moving Maria's $20 bill forward through the world. Maria's own life unfolded behind Register 6. She raised 2 sons, cared for her husband through surgery, and learned the names of customers' children. She kept dog biscuits under the counter and emergency bus fare in her apron. Bellwether employees joked that Maria knew the town better than City Hall, but nobody knew how often she quietly prevented a bad day from becoming a disaster. When Liam was 17, Claire collapsed at work from exhaustion and an untreated infection. Medical bills arrived before she returned home. Liam considered leaving school permanently. His guidance counselor found him cleaning classrooms after midnight and helped him apply for a state scholarship. In his essay, Liam wrote about a cashier who had taught him the economics of compassion. The scholarship took Liam to college in Pittsburgh. He studied logistics because he could not understand why supermarkets discarded food while families like his went hungry. He worked nights unloading trucks and sent money home. The receipt stayed in his wallet until the folds weakened. Then he sealed it inside a clear plastic sleeve. During his final year, Liam designed a system connecting grocery stores' unsold food with shelters and community kitchens before it expired. Professors called the plan idealistic. Investors said generosity was not a business model. Liam remembered Maria's crowded checkout lane and argued that waste, hunger, and transportation were not separate problems. They were one broken promise. His first company operated from a borrowed van named Emma. Liam drove every route himself. Some nights he slept in the warehouse. The system failed twice, a refrigerator broke, and his first major partner withdrew. Each time he considered quitting, he opened the plastic sleeve and read the words Maria had written beneath the price of a cake. The third year changed everything. A regional hospital network hired Liam's company to redirect surplus meals. Then a grocery chain joined. Within 5 years, Second Table Logistics rescued millions of pounds of food across 3 states. Newspapers described Liam as a young social entrepreneur. He described himself as a boy still keeping a promise. Emma became an elementary school teacher. Claire finally worked only one job and kept Maria's original pink ribbon inside a family album. On every birthday, the Walkers bought a strawberry cake and paid anonymously for another customer's groceries. They searched for Maria online, but her common name and private life made her difficult to find. Back in Maple Glen, Bellwether Market began to struggle. A national corporation purchased the small chain, cut staff, and replaced experienced workers with self-checkout stations. Frank retired. The bakery closed. Register 6 remained, but Maria's hours shrank. She stayed because her husband's medication and the couple's mortgage depended on her health insurance. Maria was 67 when a printed notice appeared beside the employee time clock. Bellwether's Maple Glen location would close in 30 days. Severance would cover only 3 weeks. Longtime employees would lose their insurance at the end of the month. Maria read the notice twice, then helped a customer find soup as if nothing had happened. The town reacted with anger, but the corporation owned the building and rejected local offers. 26 employees faced unemployment. Seniors worried about traveling 12 miles to the nearest supermarket. Maria worried about her husband Raphael, whose heart medication cost more than their mortgage without insurance. Still, she comforted younger co-workers before admitting her own fear. A local newspaper published a small article titled "Bellwether Market to Close After 42 Years." Emma saw it while preparing a lesson about community helpers. In the accompanying photograph, an older Maria stood behind Register 6. Emma called Liam before finishing the article. He recognized Maria instantly, even after 2 decades. Liam contacted the corporation and offered to purchase the location. Executives refused. The property was already being negotiated for a luxury storage facility. He increased the offer and explained his plan for a community grocery and food rescue hub. They gave him 48 hours to prove financing and municipal support or the deal would disappear. Liam returned to Maple Glen without announcing himself. He met the mayor, local farmers, a credit union, and former manager Frank. Throughout one sleepless night, they built a rescue plan. Second Table would buy the inventory and lease the building. Farmers would supply produce. Employees would receive ownership shares. The numbers barely worked. One obstacle remained. The corporation demanded a signed agreement before 7 on the store's final evening. A winter storm delayed Liam's attorney on the interstate. Digital signatures were rejected because an original property document required notarization. Liam drove through snow with the papers himself, watching the minutes disappear from the dashboard clock. Inside Bellwether, Maria worked her final shift. Shelves stood half empty. Customers hugged employees and took photographs beneath the old sign. At 6 o'clock, Maria's manager handed her a cardboard box for her name tag and apron. She placed the box beneath Register 6 and promised herself she would not cry until she reached home. At 6:17, the black SUV stopped outside. Liam entered carrying the notarized agreement and the protected receipt. He recognized the pink ribbon Maria still wore around her name badge on special days. She saw only a successful stranger approaching a nearly closed register. Then he placed the receipt between them. Maria read her own handwriting. 20 years vanished from her face. She remembered the small boy counting coins, the strawberry cake, and the promise. Liam told her his name. Maria covered her mouth and whispered that she had wondered whether he and his sister were all right. Liam answered that they were more than all right because she had noticed them. Employees gathered as Liam explained Second Table, the rescued meals, and the thousands of families served. He had not claimed Maria had created his success. He said she had changed its direction. Her $20 decision had traveled through shelters, schools, hospitals, and food banks without her ever knowing how far it had gone. Maria insisted she had only bought a cake. Liam replied that she had bought a frightened child, proof that hardship did not make him invisible. He showed her the original receipt and said every important decision in his company began with the same question. Would this leave someone with more dignity than before? The store manager reminded Liam that Bellwether would close in 43 minutes. Liam opened his briefcase and revealed the signed purchase agreement. The corporation had accepted his final offer. The building would not become storage units. At midnight, it would transfer to a new company called Maple Glen Community Market. For several seconds, nobody understood. Then Liam explained that all 26 employees would keep their jobs, wages, and health coverage. Each would receive an ownership share after 1 year. The store would also become Second Table's regional food rescue center. Applause broke across the checkout lanes, followed by tears Maria could no longer postpone. Maria asked why Liam would risk so much for one aging supermarket. He answered that communities were not saved by buildings. They were saved by people who noticed one another. Bellwether had once been the place where his family was seen. Preserving that possibility for the next child was not charity. It was responsible business. Liam then offered Maria a position as director of community care, with full benefits and authority over an emergency assistance fund. Maria laughed through her tears and said she had never directed anything. Frank, standing among the customers, called from the back that she had been directing the town for 27 years without a title. The final customer approached Register 6 with a loaf of bread and a small birthday cake. Her debit card was declined. Embarrassed, she began returning the cake. Maria and Liam looked at each other. Without a word, Liam paid while Maria wrote a message on the receipt. The promise moved forward again before the old store had even closed. At 7, the employees did not lock the doors. Instead, they covered the windows for a 1-week renovation. Volunteers arrived the next morning. Local carpenters repaired shelves, students painted walls, and farmers installed produce bins. Emma brought her class to create a mural of hands passing a small light from one person to another. The new market opened on Emma's 26th birthday. Claire, now gray-haired, carried a strawberry cake through the doors. When she saw Maria, both women recognized each other before Liam could introduce them. Claire hugged Maria for a long time and said the cake had fed more than 3 people. It had fed their hope. A glass frame near Register 6 displayed a copy of the faded receipt. Beneath it, a sign explained the market's promise. Customers facing a temporary crisis could request help without public questions or humiliation. Shoppers could quietly add $1 to their purchases. The fund belonged to the community, not to a donor's name. Within a year, the market delivered groceries to seniors, hosted free cooking classes, and rescued food from 37 regional stores. Employees received their first profit-sharing checks. Raphael's medication remained covered. Maria learned spreadsheets reluctantly, but she never needed training in recognizing fear behind customers' eyes. People often asked Liam whether the story had been exaggerated. He always showed them the real receipt. The ink had faded, the paper had yellowed, and the original price of the cake looked impossibly small. Yet he believed its true value could be measured in meals rescued, jobs preserved, and families treated with dignity. One evening, Maria found Liam standing alone beside Register 6 after closing. He admitted he sometimes worried the company had grown too large to remember why it existed. Maria told him promises did not stay alive because they were framed on walls. They stayed alive because people chose them again when nobody was watching. Liam placed the original receipt back in its sleeve and returned it to his wallet. Outside, the market's windows glowed against the snow. Inside, employees prepared food boxes for families whose names would never appear in a newspaper. The most important part of Maria's kindness was not that it returned to her. It continued beyond her. A $20 cake could not repair every hardship in a town. But on one difficult afternoon, it told a child that love was not shameful and poverty was not identity. 20 years later, that child kept his promise. And because one cashier had noticed one trembling boy, an entire community learned to notice one another.